Before I start this video, I just want to quickly mention that I know a lot of my subscribers have been complaining that they haven't been receiving notifications whenever I upload a video or do a live stream. That's really annoying for me and you both, and this seems to be a YouTube problem, so there isn't much we can do about it. But just make sure you have the bell button underneath this video clicked so you receive notifications, and make sure you actually do have notifications turned on in your YouTube settings. There's nothing much more we can do, but I will say that I always upload at least once every 3 days, and for the past few weeks I've been uploading every day, usually at 1 o'clock Washington time. So if you want, you can manually check to see if I've released a new video. And for live streams, I always go live on Saturdays at 6 PM Washington time. So Francis Ford Coppola, the legendary director of films such as The Godfather, Apocalypse Now and The Conversation, has been in the news recently a few times. A while back, he released a new director's cut of his classic war movie Apocalypse Now, and this was after he had already released the Redux cut a few years back. He's also been tinkering around with other films of his as well, like Cotton Club. Perhaps he's trying to bring his name back into the limelight for his long-gestated dream movie, his passion project, Megalopolis. He's now revealed that there is a new version of The Godfather Part 3 coming out, one that is shorter in places, stronger in others, and even has a completely new title. The third and final film in the Corleone trilogy is a much mangled movie. It's a movie that infamously did not live up to the legendary first two films in the saga, and it's thought to be problematic by film audiences for a variety of reasons, like the fact that it was made so long after the first two films, and it contains some performances, such as that of Sofia Coppola, Francis's daughter, being torn apart by critics and audiences alike. The disastrous history behind the film is perhaps even more interesting than the film itself. Some of the more notable issues was Robert Duvall, who played Tom Hagen in the first two films, being written out of the third one because of his salary demands, and he later defended his position, saying that the only reason why anyone did the film was because of money. Sofia Coppola had to redub about 20% of her dialogue because her performance was trashed at an early screening. Coppola threatened to write Al Pacino out of the film because he was asking for $7 million plus a percentage of the film's gross instead of the $5 million he was offered, and Paramount Pictures, who would have made the film whether Francis Ford Coppola signed up for the project or not, gave the filmmaker only a year to write, direct and edit the film. Many of the people involved with the project, including Coppola himself and main star Al Pacino, have expressed their disappointment with the film. Coppola has cited the lack of time and resources as one of the primary reasons why the film was a failure, and the fact that the studio refused to give in to Robert Duvall's wage demands, as his character was integral to the movie's original script. It didn't help that the movie came out 3 months after Martin Scorsese's now classic mob movie Goodfellas. It's no wonder then that Coppola wants to re-edit the movie and release what he believes is an improved version. With it arriving just in time for its 30th anniversary, the movie will be called Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Interestingly, The Death of Michael Corleone is the title Coppola originally wanted for the third film, and he considers the movie more of an epilogue than the third in a trilogy. The movie will debut in select theatres in December in a limited run, and then be available on video on demand after that. In a statement, Coppola said, "Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone is an acknowledgement of Mario's and my preferred title and our original intentions for what became The Godfather Part 3. For this version of the finale, I created a new beginning and ending and rearranged some scenes, shots and music cues. With these changes and the restored footage and sound, to me, it is a more appropriate conclusion to The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, and I'm thankful to Gianopoulos and Paramount for allowing me to revisit it." The new version is now completed, and Coppola talked about it last year, telling Deadline, "There's a cut I want to make that would be 14 minutes shorter. Usually, I go back and make them longer. This would be effective, and it makes the ending break your heart." Gianopoulos is the head of Paramount, an extremely nice man. And so what I want to say to them is that if you allow me this, you won't have to pay me. He also wishes the new version will show his daughter in a better light, saying, "I want to show Sophia a new version because she is so beautiful in it and so touching. She wasn't an actress, but she was the real thing, playing that 19-year-old Italian girl in love with her own cousin." Godfather 3 as the death of Michael Corleone is doubly painful because at the end he doesn't die, but he does worse than die. He loses everything he loves, and he lives. There are certain things in life that are worse than death. I believe if I do this new cut that her performance will be very touching as a little 19-year-old girl. That's one of the things that can be improved. I believe that in a new version of the death of Michael Corleone, Sophia's performance will vindicate her. I'm not sold on the idea of celebrated artists past their prime going back and chopping and changing things from classics. People like George Lucas and J.K. Rowling have done it, and usually it ends in disaster. That being said, The Godfather Part 3 is already something of a mess of a film. Surely the new one can't be even worse, even if Coppola is past it. To be honest, I'm looking forward to this. I don't have any particular expectations of it, but it'll be interesting to see what changes Coppola has made, and I'm hoping we get to see some new footage. From the little he's spoken about it, it seems at the very least Michael Corleone is not going to die at the end, so the ending of the film in the original version is going to be cut out. My opinion of the third film is that it is a good movie. It was unnecessary, it didn't need to exist, and it is extremely uneven with some really bad elements to it. But it isn't terrible. If the first two are 10 out of 10s, the third is an 8, at worst a 7.5. It would have been impossible to revisit that world again after 15 years and recapture the magic, especially with all the problems behind the scenes and the fact that the movie was not made with the intention to get Coppola's artistic vision out there, but instead to make some money. At the very least, it's better than half the shit that comes out these days. For me, the film is really a case of what might have been. So many things you hear about the movie would have made it a lot better. The original story, the inclusion of Tom Hagen, the exclusion of Sofia Coppola, who was a last-minute casting after Winona Ryder dropped out. If Coppola had enough time and money, I really do think this could have been elevated from a good, uneven film to a great one. I also think the title, The Death of Michael Corleone, is a far more fitting title, as the movie really does feel like an epilogue rather than another installment. It's quite detached, isn't it, from the first two films, and perhaps even a simple name change could have shielded it from some of the complaints that it originally had. That being said, I don't see how the movie can change much of what is bad about the film. Coppola talks about his daughter, and she was one of the worst things about the movie, but surely to improve the film, the only change you'd make with her is to have her in it less or cut her out completely. One of the least interesting things about the film is the story itself. How do you change that? How do you improve on that? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching.